Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
What is up, party people? This is... Oh, wait. I've got too much stuff in front of my microphone. What's going on here? This is the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Cal. A handsome gentleman sitting next to me would be none other than the DKM. Welcome to the show, Mr. Devin K. Mercer.
Greetings and salutations and other big words that mean hello.
It looks like you're repping a Batman shirt today. Is that true?
Yeah, let's see.
Like every day, like you live every day like you're Batman. Love it. My shirt is a throwback to the old hashtag NWA fam.
Keep your face covered. That's nice.
Yeah, right? You sound like my wife. Get out of here. That was a terrible Rodney Dangerfield impression. Hey, we've got
very terrible.
You've heard worse.
I've probably done worse, but you know.
You don't respect, I tell you.
No respect at all. All me and my wife argue, do is argue. Sex and money, sex and money. I go, dear, you're charging me too much.
Yikes. We have a broadcaster out here in California whose name is Vic the Brick Jacobs, and he is metamorphosized over the years into like a real life like Tibetan caveman. His beard is like as long as his hair, which is equally like to the bottom of his back. He looks like a caveman, but his old catchphrase used to be his name was Vic the Brick. They'd say, "You see the brick? Now eat it." And sorry, that was just a bunch of a waste of time to wait for people to join the show so that they don't miss any of the good content. We get the crappy content out first. Therefore, you have nothing but good content when everyone else is in the chat.
Is that what happens?
I mean, it might. I don't know. I see Willie Bowen's here, and I see Jeremy's here wrestling with the MMA. What's up, gentlemen? Thanks for tuning in. I know we've got other people here in the chat. Don't feel obligated to speak if you don't want to. You don't have to type a single thing, but we would love to hear what you have to think. We love to hear you guys' opinions. This is a very interactive show, but you are allowed to be as personable as you choose.
No, if I have to be here and talk, so do you.
I see Dave Scooby's in the house. James H. Jackson is in the house. And, we do appreciate you guys liking and sharing these videos. Obviously, that helps with the algorithm. And now we've got 3 shows every week right here on this channel, not to mention the occasional interview, the sessions with J. Cal that I do whenever I have a good guest. But also we do the pre-party every Tuesdays at, what's the time? At 5 p.m. Eastern. And that's 2 o'clock Pacific. And then the other Alliance guys join these airwaves on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. And, of course, the granddaddy of them all, 14 seasons, 30 episodes, Mr. DKM and myself, sometimes joined by Jaden, sometimes joined by Kevin Frazier. Hell, sometimes joined by Tim from NWA Gold, sometimes joined by Jeremy from Wrestling with MMA. We do it all here, folks. And that will be the Alliance Guys podcast.
Oh, it's not the show.
And I see our pal Jim Fitz. We interviewed Jim, remember? Or maybe you were there.
I was there. You didn't let me talk, but I was there.
Well, you didn't need to talk.
Yeah, that's true. Just looking cute's enough for me.
Well, you're the eye candy. I see Roswell's in the house. We've got our first Tyrus slam of the night from Willie Bowen. Tyrus, the toilet stool breaker. That can go like 2 or 3 different ways. I love it. Thank you, Willie. You make me laugh.
So there I was, minding my own business like I normally do, when Willie made a Tyrus joke, and
Roswell's listening at work. Thanks. Hey, Ros, appreciate you listening, man. Go get that. Go earn that $. Go chase that paper. I know that you're up to doing good things. So let's see. I see. You know what? The comments pop up faster on YouTube than they do on the on StreamYard, which is hilarious because it's like I'm trying to keep up. And anyways, so
pop up on StreamYard. I don't get that part. Ooh, yes.
So, anyways, first of all, I was listening to the other Alliance guys yesterday, and they were talking about the significance of what's going on between Billy Corgan, William Patrick Corgan, the owner of the National Wrestling Alliance, and, of course, our very own number one favorite wrestler here on the Alliance Guys podcast. I'm talking about the national treasure, the dealer, Mr. Nick
Our
Aldis.
biggest supporter.
Yeah, he is our biggest fan, actually. And so, one of the things that, they were kind of discussing it, does this have value to the NWA? And in the chat, I responded, we are just a few days removed from Vince McMahon retiring from his day-to-day operations in the WWE. It was announced just on Monday that Triple H would not only be the head of talent relations, but also now the head of creative for the WWE going forward. We're walking into SummerSlam this weekend. Talent engagement. What is it called? The trainees. They're trying out in Nashville right now. There's so much stuff going on with the WWE, and there's so much news coming out of AEW, like Bryan Danielson coming back and CM Punk, being very outspoken like he always is. There's so much pro wrestling stuff happening right now. And there is a small part of the fan base talking about William Patrick Corgan and Nick Aldis. And again, people are saying, well, this is a non-story. But people are talking about it, so it does have to have some value. It's getting people to, at the very least, examine what's happening in the NWA, and there's got to be some value in that. DK, what are your thoughts? Not necessarily on what's happening, but the fact that people are talking about the NWA.
Well, first I have a riddle for you.
Let's hear it.
What do you call a person that's head of creative and head of talent relations?
The guy who's in charge?
The booker. That was the old booker position, so,
Okay.
It just seems strange now to hear people talk about it and go, well, I don't know if those two positions are compatible. They were compatible for years and years and years, but Corgan, Aldis. Okay, we're going to look at this from 2 points of view. First, my point of view. I'm over it. Okay, now we're going to look at it from the point of view that you're talking about. Is it getting people talking? And I would say for an NWA angle, and I think by now we're all pretty well convinced it's an angle, at most a worked shoot. There may be tension between them, but they're turning it into a storyline. Anything that gets any group that's not normally talking about the NWA is pretty good. If they can get them to actually tune in and watch something, it'll be better. I don't know. This is where their TV tapings kind of hurt them. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as when we review the shows. But if they could have good follow-up on the shows, it would be better. But at least this is going to be relevant to the 74th, although they kind of need to put all this somewhere quickly.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest challenges right now, right, is that you don't with what's the end game, right? So, like, okay, people are talking about the NWA, but what is the end game? Because we know Billy Corgan is not going to be stepping into a professional wrestling ring to have a match. We've said it hundreds of times on this show. Like, I don't want to see Joe Galley wrestle Nick Aldis. I don't want to see Tom Latimer wrestle Kyle Davis. I just want the wrestlers to wrestle each other and the announcers and ancillary talent to just do their damn jobs, right? So I don't want to see Billy Corgan in a ring. So either he's going to have to appoint somebody to be his champion against Nick Aldis, or this feud needs to end relatively quickly. What does this do for the audience? I mean, look, some of the things that Nick Aldis has been saying, I'm 100% on board with. I agree with him. Some of the things that Billy Corgan is saying, again, I kind of agree with it. There's a lot of chicanery going on there in the NWA. There's some things that make a lot of sense and some things that just don't. We talk about that every week on this show. And if you're telling me that as a promoter, as a booker, that you are above ridicule or above criticism, well, you're probably in the wrong industry. We might all armchair quarterback this thing every chance we get, but at the end of the day, there is still some goofy shit that the NWA is putting out there. I can give you a list of it. First and foremost, Gags the Gimp. Anything to do with Father James Mitchell. There's a lot of stuff on this show that just doesn't pass the sniff test for pro wrestling in 2022. But with that being said, Nick Aldis does overstate so much. There was memes out there saying that, oh yeah, Aldis sold out the All-In pay-per-view before he was even announced on it. I kind of get that feeling. He brags about going to China, but you know what? Dave Marquez would have taken any wrestler out there. If Colt Cabana would have been world champion, he would have been happy to take Colt Cabana and an opponent to be named. Or if it was Eli Drake, that match still would have happened. Nick Aldis didn't change that. That match wasn't booked on or predicated on who was holding the belt. It was just that the belt was there. And as we look at it, there's a lot of overstatements, I think, of what Nick Aldis was able to do. At the end of the day, look, I feel like Nick Aldis doesn't need the NWA, right? But the NWA doesn't need Nick Aldis. However, with that being said, I feel like they're both stronger when they're working together. But at the end of the day, I don't know how this benefits the NWA. I don't know how this is going to translate into buys for the pay-per-view. I don't know how this is going to make more people sign up for the premier live events or sign up for the Fight TV premium package. That's where I don't see where this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It's, the only interest for somebody like me early on was, is it real or is it not? And I think now that we know, no matter how real it may be, it's obviously a work situation. Then you're just kind of like, okay, so what are you going to do with it? I mean, I don't need the two of them arguing with each other over Twitter anymore or making comments. Where's the story? Where's the angle? What's going to happen? I mean, when's the 74th? August what?
August 27th and 28th.
Okay, so we're still a month away. So, I mean, they got time, but hopefully they won't draw this out until, August 22nd.
Right. Well, and then as our pal James mentions in the chat, the only people having these discussions are us, not casual fans. And to that I say, I'm not so sure about that. And the reason why I say that is Busted Open, which predominantly covers WWE and AEW. I mean, they don't even do a whole lot of Impact talk, to be honest with you. They seemingly ignore anything dealing with United Wrestling Network. They very rarely touch on MLW, if at all. But occasionally they do bring up the NWA. And they've now dedicated 2 segments of over 20 minutes a time for this gimmick, this work, this shoot, whatever it is. And I think the other part of this that I'm a little concerned about is that I don't want them to work themselves into a shoot. You said that the other day offline, DK, and that becomes increasingly more of a concern of mine, is that they're going to keep working this and they're going to end up putting themselves at odds in real life if they're not already.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with the overall thing. I mean, the trick to anything is you do this to make money.
Right.
You know, Bobby Heenan always had one of my favorite lines that he said came from Gorilla Monsoon, which is if you're in this, you better be in this business to make money, because if you're not, you're an idiot. And a lot of people go, oh, well, these people have passion and they have it. I don't care. They better be in it to make money. Because if you ain't in this to make money, then you don't care what the crowd is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can run in front of 40 people every week, month, 6 months, whatever, that you want to put on a show to prove that you're passionate. But it don't mean nothing if you ain't making money, if you're not drawing people. I don't care that you've worked, 100 shows because you work 2 days every week or whatever. I don't care. Did you draw anybody? Did anybody see you? If you're working in the same place, were there more people at the end of the year than there were at the beginning of the year? Because if not, so what?
Yeah, and that's a good point too. And like our pal Dave Scooby just said in the chat, he says getting some exposure on Busted Open Radio, but is that enough to hook fans into watching? In my opinion, not so much.
Well, only if you have a story that fans are interested in. Now, they've laid a groundwork that's interesting. Billy and Aldous not getting along, and neither one of them really being the faces in it. They both kind of come across as pricks.
Yeah.
So we're already lacking one thing, which is we don't have anybody to cheer for. So, I mean, there's a failing there. Getting out on Busted Open, I mean, that's good. And yeah, I think there are people outside of the normal fan, but I think all they're saying is, wow, Billy and Nick don't like each other. Huh. What are they doing to say, tune in?
Right.
Let's be honest. If this were to play anywhere, and again, we have their TV taping schedule that just screws them over time and time again. I mean, they should be putting things on USA.
Yeah.
On NWA USA. I mean, Billy and if the work nature of this, Billy and Aldous should have come in someplace for a day and with Kyle Davis and shot however many episodes of USA there are between here and the pay-per-view, where they basically had their own segments in the back, and then you can build it, and then you just re-show those on Power. You don't even need new ones for Power. You can just re-show those on Power.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that.
And then I have something to go, ooh, I saw this on Busted Open Radio. I can follow it on USA. There can be, USA will promote other parts of Power. Maybe I'll be interested in looking at that. Hey, I'm interested in the pay-per-view. Guess what? I can get the subscription for about the same price as buying both pay-per-views. Let me go ahead and subscribe. I'll give this thing a year and see how it goes. And if I only watch the 2 pay-per-views and, a month of TV, I've made my money.
Yeah.
And so they've thrown the bait into the water, but is there a hook attached to it? And that's the part I don't know.
I don't. Again, these are all great points, and as I'm sitting here, we're talking about this, and we think about USA, we think about Power, and just based on their YouTube numbers, right? Like the Race for the Chase finals that was last week's Power had over almost 40,000 people watch that, right? Saturday's show with the Junior Heavyweight Showcase, 16,000 people watched it. The week before, Tyrus on USA had 23,000 people watch that episode. And I'm like, I look at these numbers and I think, wow, that's great. But then, I went to Mexico and videotaped a wrestling match on myself or on my digital camera and uploaded it to YouTube, and it had over 40,000 people watch just a random Lucha Libre match from a promotion that's not very well known, The Crash. And my one match is pretty much on par with some of the better segments, better shows of Power. Hour-long episodes. I had a 15-minute match. There's got to be some sort of convergence. If you're having these conversations on these podcasts, on these satellite radio shows, on these FM radio stations that they allude to on the episode of Power, it's gotta convert ticket sales, T-shirts, money generating endeavors, and right now when you're looking at like last week's USA only had 16,000 people watch it. Now, granted, it's only Thursday night. It's not even a week old, but only 16,000 people watched it. How can they converge on that? How many? How is this angle going to put money in anybody's pocket?
And let's be honest. Probably 80% of the people who are going to watch the show watch it within the first 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do better watching the shows on the day they come out, so I don't have to cram and feel bad on Thursdays. But
I still cram. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. We'll punish you for it later.
James says, wow, let me tune in and see what Corgan does to Aldous. James also brings up, I've never listened to Busted Open before this stuff, so it did its job to get me to become a fan of Busted Open, which, I mean, that's kind of I don't think that's what the NWA was hoping for, but I'm sure the Busted Open doesn't mind.
I'll be honest, I've never listened to it.
My wife bought me a truck last year for Father's Day that had satellite radio in it. I had heard a lot about Busted Open, but never actually listened to it before. And it's actually a pretty good program. What's really weird about it is so when Billy came on, it was the day after Mickey James Aldis is a co-host on that show too. She appears on Wednesdays. So she wasn't there when Billy came on and kind of, put down her husband. And even listening to her talk about it, she was tiptoeing around, she kept saying how much she has love and respect for, William Patrick Corgan for, allowing her to, see her husband make his living there and having opportunities to promote the Empowered pay-per-view and all that stuff. But even she was just like, it seemed like in a very unfavorable position. The host of this show, Dave LaGreca, is obviously a Nick Aldis mark. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but he just absolutely adores the guy. And you could hear, he even told Billy, he's like, I think you're making a bad decision based on emotion. And later when Aldis came on, referred to it as a bullshit decision. So it's certainly splitting, some of the people who enjoy the product. But again, how does it make dollars?
Like I said, is there a hook attached to the bait? I just don't know.
And Tim brings up the fact of, even if there is hook under this bait, I feel like we've seen this promoter versus the top star angle somewhere else before.
Oh, we've seen it lots of places before. Because obviously, WWE made a living off of it for 30 years and then beat it to death like they did everything else. And then, Impact did it. Every indie promotion on the planet did it. And so not my. And the problem is, though, most of those were heel promoters versus face stars. And like I said, with this, you don't really have a face. You just have two guys that come across as pricks, which is why. So in it, I'm almost willing to bet that the person that, whether it's at the 74th or not, that ends up representing Corgan is going to end up being probably Cardona, because they seem to have been setting up Billy and Cardona as best buds for a while. Billy, go back, take your own advice, and, only show up when we need a authority figure to show up and make the right decisions, not this bullshit.
Jaden, you've been listening for a minute or two. What are your thoughts on this whole worked shoot confrontation, degradation of relationship between Billy Corgan and Nick Aldis?
I think World Class / WCCW did it. I'm sorry, World Class / USWA did it way better. Because they were the first ones to do it that I could really think of any major league company with the evil promoter against the babyface wrestler. I think it's, I don't know, boring, retread. I'm not paying to see Billy Corgan looking like something out of, looking like Jack Skellington without the paint. I like all this. I'm not in any position to want to cheer for him in that kind of position. It seems like two people having a little bit of temper tantrums, publicly putting it on, out there, and not for any reason, because it's not going to draw any money. Unless all this power boss Billy Corgan, then I'd probably pay to see that.
I'd pay to do that. But here, I got a question for you guys, both of you. So one of the things is we've had Nick Aldis, I guess he went on Busted Open too or whatever. He's talking about how he gave up some of the money that he was supposed to be paid so that other people could be paid and blah and stuff. The problem is when Nick Aldis comes across saying things like that, it's not like he's doing it it's not like he comes across as a positive. To me, it comes across as here's just a guy, almost what Billy Corgan was saying. Here's just a guy blowing his own horn. I mean, I'm not looking at it.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm not looking at it
on my phone. I just had to make sure I was seeing it right.
I'm not, it's just not getting me over with this guy. So, I mean, when you hear stuff like that, does it matter to you? I mean, do you think, oh, cool, or is that just too inside? Because one of the problems with these feuds is they end up kind of being too inside, and I don't really care about that. I don't really care whether Aldis gave up part of his money so other people could be paid. I don't believe he gave up a lot of it, because he wasn't out there working a lot of indie dates when the opportunities were there.
Well, I mean, let's go back in the time machine, right? And what do we do know? Nick said, like, hey, the first year I was there, I wasn't getting paid by the NWA. And that might be true. That could legitimately be true. But I also know he was getting paid quite handsomely from other people. I was at an event where I saw money change hands, and that's all I'll say about that. And it was a lot more than you would think. I know it was more than what Adam Pearce used to make on the NWA agreement that the old board of directors had in place. With that being said, too, it's like, again, you were carrying the NWA title. You had a lot of the opportunities that came up were because you were NWA World's Champion, and anybody who was holding that title belt would have had those same opportunities. I don't think that All In was based on a feud between Cody and Nick Aldis. I think it was on the idea, the premise, that Cody wanted to win the 10 pounds of gold. Again, that could have been Tim Storm in that ring. That could have been Adam Pearce in that ring. That could have been just about anybody in that ring. And I think, it would have had some attention. Now, don't get me wrong. Nick Aldis I'll say this until I'm dead. Nick Aldis is a 5-tool athlete. He's not a bargain type wrestler. He's premium. I put him very high up on the echelon of pro wrestling in 2022. However, don't overstate what you've done. Don't overstate who you are. That title around your waist created many opportunities for you. And I'm not going to believe all the bullshit otherwise. When you say like, oh, you know, Harley Race wanted me. Yeah, okay, well, he wanted the world's heavyweight champion. And had that been Eli Drake or Drew McIntyre or any of the other people that they had wanted before they got to Nick Aldis, I think those people would have been invited to do those things had Aldis not been there.
Well, and he also said something that wasn't true based on what he was implying. Because he was basically implying Harley Race never cared anything or did anything for the NWA, you know, post the WCW days. Well, he shot an angle with Bruce Tharp in Japan. He had brought in the NWA World Title on his own early into his promotion, but even after they had left the NWA.
Well, so, World Legion Wrestling had booked Dan Severn. Look, and let's not kid ourselves. Dave Marquez, Harley Race had a close relationship from those WLW days. Remember, that used to be a Marquez promotion. He sold to Harley, and during those days, it's like Harley made himself available for the NWA when the NWA asked. It wasn't as often as maybe it probably should have been, but it wasn't like he was off limits either.
Did he show up in Impact?
Yeah, he did show up in Impact.
I mean, my point is that this idea that Harley Race didn't give a crap about the NWA until suddenly Nick Aldis was out and about and him and Billy Corgan were doing stuff with it. That's just crap. It's not true. Although I see, and I'm going to pick on Aldis for saying it, but I'm sure Corgan has that same frame of mind. In a way, in those two's mind, the NWA died when
Ric Flair left the title when he went to WWE. That's what it feels like, anyway.
Right. Well, whenever WCW stopped using the NWA name, and
1993 is when they officially withdrew from the National Wrestling Alliance.
Right, and just called the Big Gold Belt. Corgan and
Aldis
just seemed to think that nobody anywhere ever gave a shit about the NWA until they came into the picture. They totally overlooked the Impact time, or TNA as it was at the time. And you point out Marquez had small arena shows. He could draw anywhere from 250 people to, there was a show down in Texas that drew 1560.
Yeah, I was at the Orleans Arena, an NWA show that Dave Marquez put on, and at the same place that Ring of Honor used to run before they moved locations. And it was a small, like a 15,000 seat arena, and yeah, they had curtains blocking off most of the seats and all that stuff, but they still had over 1,500 people at that show. I know this because I was sitting front row and I could look back and see hundreds of people. And this isn't a work. I mean, I'm talking legit. They had over 1,500 people at the Orleans Arena. Maybe did that venue hold 10 times as many people? Sure. Okay. But I haven't seen 1,500 people at an NWA event. And I've been to the Crockett Cup, and I was at the 70th anniversary show, and they might have been lucky to have 1,000 people at the 73rd show, or no, excuse me, the 70th anniversary show. 73rd, they didn't have anywhere near that number. The Crockett Cup 2019, they didn't have anything near that number. So, I mean, and look, I've been saying this too. Rob Conway defended the World's Heavyweight Championship at a Wrestle Kingdom number 3. And look, I don't care. Nobody has been able to put a world's heavyweight title match with that many people watching. I know it wasn't the main event, but still, the
10,000 people saw it one way or the other.
Yeah, the two biggest world title matches in the last 20 years were All In and Wrestle Kingdom 3.
And look, when I went to 2 NWA shows, one which featured the world title and one that featured the national title back when Phil Shatter was the national champion.
Yeah.
And the one featuring the world champion drew about 700 people. And the one with the national champion drew about 500 people. I mean, look, we freaked out when they drew 800 in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But I mean, within the same year, I watched them draw in 2 different parts of, 2 different parts of Texas, 500 plus.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, get your egos in check, guys. You're not doing anything that's just overly amazing as far as drawing is concerned.
And can I say one last thing before we move on from this subject is that Billy Corgan has spent a lot more money than Bruce Tharp did in his time with the NWA. And Bruce Tharp had NWA talents in Japan. In New Japan. New Japan Pro Wrestling. Second biggest wrestling company on the face of the planet.
Yep.
Check the ego, Billy. Check it, Nick. Rob Conway was in New Japan defending the 10 pounds of gold at Wrestle Kingdom. I'm sorry, nothing Nick has done can top that feat yet. Wrestling in China was cool. You're welcome. Dave Marquez says you're welcome. Wrestling in Australia was cool. Tommy Dreamer says you're welcome. Wrestling it all in was cool. Cody says you're welcome. The NWA on its own has done nothing near the magnitude of having Rob Conway defend at Wrestle Kingdom.
In fact, if I remember correctly, on the China one, I've heard rumors from some people that the former NWA guy, what's his name, Lagana, was unhappy that they were using the NWA letters as prominently as they were.
Yeah, and that was
which didn't make any sense to me. I would think you would love that fact if you're not paying.
I mean, I was there, so I was there. I sat in those conversations. Not all of them, but some of them. And yeah, Logano was a little unhappy the fact that it was almost billed as an NWA show. All the artwork and everything from the United Wrestling Network presented it as a championship wrestling from Wenzhou, or I think they just called it wrestling from China. But there was a lot of advertising that said NWA on it. They used a lot of not the actual NWA logos, but logos they created with the letters NWA National Wrestling Alliance on it. And he wasn't happy about that because it was in his words, it wasn't an NWA show. It was a championship wrestling from a Hollywood show. So,
well, he's not wrong, but you would think he would want that publicity.
Well, that's what we were thinking.
It just James. No,
please no, James White Jackson.
White Lavender Jones is not ready to make a comeback to the NWA. Although I would absolutely love for them to bring him in as a manager. Oh, that would be so great. Chris Silvio's doing a great job being the mouthpiece for Jax Dane. He's fun. He's great. I would so much rather have Bruce Tharp there with the jacket and the teeth. Hell, I'd even take White Lavender Jones as representing Jax Dane. I think that'd be a hell of a lot of fun.
I'd enjoy it.
What'd you say, DK?
I said I'd enjoy it.
And this is why pot's legal in both Texas and California.
Okay. So did you guys hear also James H. Jackson actually offline sent me an article about Billy Corgan is actually looking into doing television, and it would be a 2-hour program apparently, and he's had some advanced discussions. And real quick, Jaden, I know you have a background in film and television. I got to ask you, I mean, do you think the NWA is ready for a TV spot? If so, where do you see them slotting in? And would this be the end of the NWA on Fight?
Production-wise, they could probably get away with it because they have decent enough production values that it wouldn't look horrible on TV. for booking and match quality and logic wise, how can I say no in the most dramatic and funniest way possible? Let's see.
Crying.
What was that?
Start crying. Oh, no.
Yeah. I think I'd much rather watch court TV. And I don't mean when like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were on there. I mean like now, or C-SPAN, than try to watch that NWA on television right now. And they can't even do 1 hour. How are they going to do 2 hours? And what are they going to tape it every 9 months like they do already?
Yeah, that's the other thing. There has been some speculation, some talk, some rumors, and I saw that our pal Jeremy posted it earlier. He said that he heard an interview with Joe Galley today, and that he says that the NWA will be doing more live events and tapings in 2023.
Well, smart. They should do one every month, and that's the least.
I mean, I wonder who else has been mentioning that they would benefit from that. You know, and I wonder what other wrestling promotions are able to do like a monthly TV taping. I mean, it must cost a fortune to do that.
Probably.
How could they afford to keep up with that?
I'd like to know, though. First of all, have you guys heard anything interesting happening in the wrestling world right now?
No.
No, it's just kind of boring right now. Nothing's happened in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, right?
Hey,
but seriously,
did you hear the comment I stole from Jim Cornette earlier?
No.
Yeah, what do you get when you have a guy that's head of talent relations and head of creative?
A booker?
A booker.
Yeah.
People are making such a big deal out of having both positions, and they're contradictory positions and blah stuff like that. And it's like, Jim Cornette pointed out, he goes, that used to be called the booker.
That's exactly what it is. But do you think the changes in the World Wrestling Entertainment is going to take some of the steam away from anything happening with the NWA right now? Some possible wrestlers that they might have been able to get, maybe going home to the WWE or maybe leaving the NWA to the WWE.
So, okay, we know that Triple H has an affinity for the NWA. We know that it's pretty common knowledge. You'll hear him say like he grew up watching the NWA. He's got the 10 pounds of gold, the one that Ric Flair had, literally adorned in his office. It's very easy to say that, yes, Triple H is an NWA guy. Now, him being involved with NXT, a lot of people said that it was a better show. It was a more entertaining show. I think we lost DKM.
He's getting a drink.
Yeah. We all could use a drink. I figure, with him back at the helm, no pun intended, I think there will be another kind of another revolution, another time that NXT will be more of a competitive brand than just an enhancement, just a developmental league. And I think, that is going to be difficult for the NWA because, look at some of the stars that they're using right now, right? The Briscoes, who won the Crockett Cup, are now exclusive to Ring of Honor, right? The guys from Honor No More, the OGK, they're splitting time between Impact and the NWA. The Max the Impaler was a benefit from the Ring of Honor closing down for the time that they did. So, now that Triple H is back, directing things, if you will, for talent in the WWE, why wouldn't he go back and get some of those guys? Why wouldn't he go back and pick up some of these names that have value? Like Mike Bennett was humiliated in Vince McMahon's WWE, but maybe Triple H sees a different vision for the OGK. Maybe they would fit in on a brand like NXT to help develop the next set of superstars. They could use somebody like Mike Bennett and Matt Taven the same way they used Johnny Gargano and
Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, thank you. I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, but even just You got NXT, and I really honestly believe that NXT should stay as a developmental brand. It should be taken off television, left on maybe the cock, and be an actual developmental brand to push wrestlers. Just actually though used to push wrestlers, not stupid stuff there. And I think right now the WWE has a much bigger shot for seeing guys that would have never been under Vince's thumb, more like under his boot, to actually have a chance. And I think that hurts the NWA. I think that hurts, and I think that hurts AEW and the Ring of Honor side project. There's probably a lot of guys that if they had the opportunity would leave AEW to come back to the WWE if they call, because they're not even getting any TV time on there. They're getting paid, but they're not getting any TV time.
I look at a guy like Karrion Kross, who still seems, I could be wrong, seems like he's still unsigned, right? Like he's made appearances for like FSW. I know he's going to be at the Ric Flair retirement show.
Does MLW sometimes too, but yeah, you're right. He is unsigned.
Yeah, and if I'm Triple H, you know the man. Okay, fantasy booking WWE style. I never do this, but you know you've got this big heavyweight title match at SummerSlam between Brock Lesnar and your tribal chief Roman Reigns. Now, what happens if somehow, some way, Karrion Kross just shows up with Scarlett, comes down the ramp and says, "I challenge whoever wins," or just gets to the ring? It makes it a triple threat match. You know, it's not like WWE has, responsibility to keep its continuity and storylines in check either. They can do whatever the hell they want. Triple H can do whatever the hell he wants. Karrion Kross to show up this weekend at SummerSlam, or Johnny Gargano to show up at SummerSlam. I know that Seth Rollins needs an opponent now that Riddle's out with injury. So, like, anything could happen. And I think that's where, those relationships that Triple H had with a lot of those talents, there's still a lot of those guys unsigned. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them start showing up in NXT, WWE, and again, making it harder for the NWA to get some of that premium talent.
Who would you, if you were scouting the NWA now for the WWE? I know they're not going to use Pope. He's too old. I doubt they'll use Murdoch. But, like, out of the young talent, who do you think that they should sign, either put in developmental or move right to the main roster?
I mean, if you're looking at the roster as it is right now, the first guy that I would grab if I'm the WWE would be Harry Smith. Although they haven't had a great track record with him in the past, he'd be the first guy that I would pull in. When you mentioned the Pope's too old, half the guys on the roster are in their 40s. Trevor, Tyrus. I would, honestly, if things are legit, like troubled between Aldis and Corgan, wouldn't you go after Aldis? Wouldn't he be a great addition to the NXT? I mean, there was rumor that he was going to NXT back in 2020 at the end of 2020. Yeah, the end of 2020, when the NWA took a knee the whole year, there was rumor that, his contract wasn't going to be renewed and he was going to go sign with NXT. And that, obviously never happened.
What about younger guys, though? They got some young talent, especially some of the women.
I mean, if I was going to steal anybody, I'd probably steal
Austin Idol. No, just kidding.
I wish they'd steal him and put him out to pasture. I mean, Jordan Clearwater, I'd take and put in developmental. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. I still Jeremiah Pluckett just to work in the training facility.
What about, okay, so Jaden said something and it opened up my ears a little bit. Women, obviously the NWA has a ton of talented women. I think first, right off the bat, I'm looking at Natalia Markova. I'm looking at Genocide. I would say Camille.
Yeah, there's my first option. That's where I was trying to lead you toward, Camille.
Took me a while there, but you got me to drink.
I would take Camille, but I would take Kenzie Page and put her in developmental. I would take Killian King, put her in developmental. If I'm Triple H, I'd get Chelsea Green back, who never got a proper run in WWE because of the
Broken arm.
injuries. Yeah, so I'd see if I could get her in and actually give her a proper run. I would absolutely positively not touch Angelina Love for any reason.
No. Hey, like, look, and that's the thing, right? Like, I'm looking at this the NWA roster, the women.
Genocide. I'd take genocide if we're going to look at the women.
You look at the NWA women's roster, and there are a lot of gems there. That's for sure. Ella Envy, Kenzie Page. Kenzie Page is so young that anything can happen with her. She could be a superstar if given the right time. She's only, 19, 18?
I'm not sure.
She's not very old, and a lot of the women are still, fairly young. But even this week, and we'll get into it later on the show, they introduced what was her name? The girl that wrestled Kenzie Page. And I hadn't seen her before. She really impressed me. Casey Lennox, I think. And to me, as soon as I saw her, I thought, wow, she should be in the WWE.
What about Odinson?
I don't know that Odinson fits. And I know
I'd have to see more of him. I mean, basically all I've seen of him is his work in the end and stuff like that. I think maybe but I don't know how old he is. I mean,
that's a fair point too.
I mean, when you're looking at it, you can look at PJ Hawks. At Luke Hawks as a trainer. I don't know about Jack Stane. I love Jax, but I think he oddly would be too much of a McMahon style guy as opposed to.
I think the thing about Jax, and again, that's coming from a good place. We all love Jax Stane. I don't think they would allow Jax to be Jax. And I think they would try to make him into something that I don't know that he'd be comfortable with.
And Have you been watching Triple H book?
Well, the problem is I don't know. It's going to be a year before we really know what Triple H wants versus what everybody's used to. He made NXT kind of that Ring of Honor, WWE Ring of Honor promotion. But, what do you do when you actually have some of the, main talent? Like I always say, would he book Ricochet better in the, on the main card and the main roster? Probably. Is Ricochet going to beat Roman Reigns for the world title? Probably shouldn't.
I'm sorry, but I still can't see how you can't think Odinson. Odinson would probably go work out with Triple H.
Probably.
Yeah.
Triple H has a lot of guys that he has pushed for that are bigger guys. We'll use Randy Orton or Sheamus as an example.
Okay.
Plus, yes, he booked a lot of indie darlings into NXT. He didn't really give them major name changes and gimmick changes other than maybe put a little shine and a little sizzle to that steak, with the exception of Johnny Gargano, which you could put an entire cow and his steak won't be any more steak. But he's a black hole of charisma. What can I say?
Oh,
some people love him, and I haven't figured that out yet.
It's because he's bigger, the same size as them. People want to think that they can do something, so they want somebody's. That's why they like Rudy. You ever see the movie Rudy?
I am Rudy. That was my life growing up.
I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah, that you're more like Samwise Ganges.
I don't know what that is.
You know what Samwise Ganges is?
No, I have no idea what that is.
You've never watched The Lord of the Rings?
No, I told you, I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy.
Never, but you haven't even seen one of the movies?
I haven't seen
or even the cartoons?
Nothing. I've seen nothing of that.
Jaden?
Yes, I know. He likes avocado, so we can expect.
Boot him off the show.
Wait a minute.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, now
all right. Let's kill it now. Call up Wardell Walker. Let's kill this show right now. TBA. But seriously, like there are big guys that Triple H uses. I wouldn't even consider Samoa Joe a small guy, even though he's not the bodybuilder type.
No, and I'm not saying that he likes small guys. What I'm saying is that I don't know what he would book on the main roster, and I think someone like Odison might work. I just don't know how old he is. I haven't seen a lot of him. Can we talk NWA Pro Wrestling? Because WWE is nauseating. Willie. We have to keep up with the world, though. And that the problem we're having is that WWE will probably start raiding some of these places again now that Vince is gone. So you got some serious things you got to consider from that. But going back to the NWA, if there's anything interesting to talk about in the NWA, damn Jay coming back. Hey Jay,
yeah.
So what can we talk about that's interesting about the NWA other than the fact that Billy Corgan and Nick Aldis are both pricks, and I don't want to see either one of them win.
So we talked about that feud, or I'm gonna put that in quotations, feud. We also talked about the idea that they might be looking at doing a TV show, but we didn't really keep continuing about that because we spilled over to the more WWE talk. But the NWA, Billy Corgan specifically said that they are in talks to start a wrestling television show, and it would be like a 2-hour TV show, not unlike what we're seeing Monday nights or Wednesday nights. Where would a place like that land, though? Where would an NWA program land? I mean, you look at the spectrum of all the cable programming that's out there now, and it's not like the world of pro wrestling is such a hot commodity that everyone needs to have wrestling. I mean, look, the WWE has wrestling on Fox and on the NBC programming, so you get to immediately eliminate those two options. With AEW being on Time Warner, again, TBS, TNT, you can immediately take any Time Warner Discovery Channel out of the equation. And Impact Impact had such a hard time finding a TV deal that they literally, the parent company had to buy a network just to put Impact on it. So it's like, what station is clamoring for more pro wrestling content? Where would a promotion like the NWA land? And what would happen to Fight TV and YouTube? Would NWA Power become a television show, or would Power and USA remain, and this would be in addition to?
Okay, my thoughts. If I were in charge,
shut it down.
Yeah. Well, first, where would it land? And I would say the same type of channel that Impact's on. Not the same channel, the same type of channel.
The Weather Channel.
Something. ESPN 43.
Yocho.
Mav TV. I don't know.
Mav TV. That has been around for a while.
I can't get Mav TV where I live. It's not on anything.
So, I don't know. The former Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is on some cable channel out, or I shouldn't say cable because I have DirecTV, but on some DirecTV channel out here. So I record it, start it, bomb it, and then delete it. So
is Color still around?
Maybe. That was actually going to be one of my jokes. Thanks a lot, Jaden.
Yeah, but I made it funny.
For those who don't know, NWA made a big deal about being on cable TV when they got on a show called Colors.
A network called Colors.
Network called Colors. And they ran about 12 shows before it died. And then I guess they got some other backing from Coca-Cola, and that ran about 12 shows before it died.
And it was such a popular program on, remember, Colors was a multicultural channel from India. So not that I have a problem with the culture from India, nor do I have a problem with the NWA being on such a channel. It didn't really blend well with what they were promoting the other, 23 hours in a day.
Yeah, it was weird.
All right, my turn. What about if not, I was a Mercy Kill.
Oh no! The other thing I was going to say was I mean that's what it'd do, but I would tape like every other week and for a 2-hour show, and then I would kill all my other stuff. I'd kill Fight except for the pay-per-views, and I'd kill USA.
Okay. Now I was thinking, do you remember the station that had like a 10-week wrestling program that was run by Howard Baum or Howard Brody? What was that called? WGN America?
Oh, yeah, something like that. Yeah. It was the former Chicago WGN that.
Yeah, it's their cable version of their Chicago. They still own a Chicago superstation, but they have a cable version of it, which is very similar programming with just some slight different commercials. But yeah, WGN America would probably be big because you know what? All Elite, the All In pay-per-view use that to promote their event, and a lot of people thought that was going to be the network that they ended up on before Tony Khan got involved. So that's probably where I would think the best option for them, because at least I can, in my upper 200s, I could find that cable station. Not like I don't have to go. Well, I don't have a cable anymore, but I know when we had Comcast, it was in the upper 200s.
They could do
so at least. What was that?
AccuWeather.
AccuWeather, that's a good one.
Animal Planet, maybe Animal Planet. Anybody?
I think that's owned by like another group.
Aspire,
Game Share Network. Is that still around?
Aspire 2, is that?
Yeah, but I say WGN America. That's where I would think they would probably be the best option for them, because it's probably got the most coverage out of any network that would hold something like that. I mean, they'd probably have to pay for it.
So,
and
can I jump back in, guys, or should I see my
real quick? Let me just finish real quick. I think they should get rid of their other programs if they do get a real television deal. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I disagree. I think that if they're able to tape monthly, like I don't know what the plan is, right? I don't know what Billy Corgan's 17-year plan is, or 16-year plan is going forward. But I think that given the opportunity to have a live television show, which to me isn't the draw that it used to be, and only really makes sense is if the company is paying you to be on television. If you're paying for time or getting free time and sharing revenue from commercials, I think that's a non sequitur. I don't think that's a win. I think that's just a whatever. But I think, if you are able to get on TV doing an additional program, if you're able to tape monthly, right, then your program now on television could feature all of your world title matches, all of your tag teams, and everything that's good about the show. And then your Saturday morning program could be maybe featuring up and comers, the people you think will be the future of the company. And then Power could be more like focused on like certain divisions, like the women's division, or each week could have a different theme type show. And that way you're still generating profit, you're still generating revenue, and you're also giving your audience a lot of content if they choose to digest it.
Well, the problem is the more shows they do, the more they got to tape, and then the more they have to tape, the more they overtape at a given moment. And so I would, look, if they're going to tape every 2 weeks or even weekly, then I would say, sure, you can do some more shows. You basically do a 3-hour taping and, a 3 to 4 hour taping, and you can have your 2-hour TV show and maybe a half-hour US. I don't know that I would do anything on Fight, honestly. Maybe you do just an hour show on
YouTube.
Yeah, and YouTube. That would be more in line with your syndicated shows that they used to put out, WWE and Mid-Atlantic, where they were kind of like in arenas, but you still just basically saw the jobber matches that happened at the beginning of the show.
Here's the thing too, that television stations or wrestling companies believe they need to do on television. They need to put everything in front of an audience. You can record 6 hours of TV or 5 hours of TV or 3 hours of TV or however you're trying to do it, and fill it with a lot of stuff that's not in front of an audience. So you can keep the audience fresh and then go do backstage segments, backstage interviews. Hell, get that rolling cage they used to do I used to love what they do on Mid-Atlantic Television and NWA Worldwide, and get the red and blue backgrounds, even though I think AEW kind of stole that right now anyway. But roll that cage in and start doing promos about the steel cage match at the Sportatorium in Orlando, Florida, or wherever, that they happen to be running their next pay-per-view that they decide to do. It'll be great. You can film a lot of stuff in backstage. You could have sit-down interviews that are actually entertaining and make it more sports-oriented. Hell, what I would love for them to do, and this is steal this idea, go back to the 10 pounds of gold era, use matches, but in between, follow these wrestlers as they're training and working out and talking and with their family and on the road and stuff like that, and use a build up like a real sports base, like boxing in the HBO used to do, and then mix it with actually good, well produced, well booked, well orchestrated, everything just done right wrestling. Then you'll have a program that'll make it unlike anything you or anybody else is doing.
So, okay.
Yes.
So you take Power and just put Power on any television station that you can get, whatever. Then you could
will fail miserably.
Sure. Or you could do something like what you're talking about and make it more of a documentary type series that features more pro wrestling. But like on tonight's episode of the NWA, it's the 10 pounds of gold. On this episode, it's the Burke. This episode, it's the National Heavyweight Championship. Or is that what you're kind of talking about? And it would tell stories from the perspectives of the wrestlers and opponents and show matches. Is that what you're?
Yeah, except you could split it out with, like, if you do 2 hours, you can get probably 3 really good stories going with 3 really good matches, and have like the back and forth go there and then have the match, and then the back and forth and then the match. Because it'll be great to build it up. It'll feel like it's something special, like you're watching something special. UFC used to do it really, really well until they got on ESPN. And actually, even before they did that, they screwed up a lot when they did on Fox, of all places. But I used to love when I would see those specials of UFC on Spike Network. They really made me want to see those fights. They don't do that anymore. Now the new producers are all worried about slick this and slick that. I love that. It made me want to see those fighters. Somebody I didn't know about. One of my favorite fighters is from New Jersey, and it's Frankie Edgar, and they did those little specials building him up, and I became a huge Frankie Edgar fan. I hated anybody that had to do with, like, just half the fighters there, but that's because I was supposed to hate them because they made me hate them. That made me like some people that I hated. It was really well done. It's something that no other wrestling promotion is doing. It's something I would love to do. I know Dr. Zacconi would love to do it if he ever gets on TV. Him and I talk about it all the time. We brainstorm about that. I think that would be beautiful and make it actually something you want to see, like you're seeing 2 or 3 big fights instead of a bunch of matches that don't mean anything. And a bunch of really bad backstage segments and even worse commentators. You need to fix that too.
There's so much they need to fix before they got TV.
They need to burn it down, start from scratch.
Basically.
Where's
what
the
they need to do
flamethrower?
is hire David Marquez and just buy out the United Wrestling Network and go from there. That would put you on TV markets all throughout the United States. You would have viable options for producing content at the improvs in California and the casinos that Dave Marquez has relationships. Plus, you could still film in Nashville. You could still film in St. Louis. Do everything that you're doing currently, but just add that in. Add Jordan Clearwater as your United Wrestling Network world champion, and sometime down the road do a unification bout. Bring in, the tag team champions, I think, are Beef Candy right now. At some point, have them unify the titles with Commonwealth Connection, and have that ability to do, multiple tapings a month. Do one in California, one in Nashville. Do one in California, do one in Atlanta. Do one in California, do one in St. Louis. And always creating content. And having somebody like Dave Marquez who knows what he's doing, and directing guys like Joe Galley, get rid of the other two yahoos, bring in Todd Kennelly from United Wrestling Network, and you'd have a great commentary team that actually know what they're talking about. And some of the professionals that Dave Marquez is using on those shows, the host of the show, it would lend a lot more credibility than Velvet Sky getting dirty for the Dirty Sexy Boys. I'm just saying.
End up like a pony.
What's that?
End up like a pony.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if we're gonna be dreaming about unrealistic things, I want a pony to go with it.
Wouldn't you know who won the pony?
So yeah, exactly. So, question for you.
False.
Question for you. Should the NWA do live events where there are no cameras? Should they
Yes.
go on shows?
Yes.
I mean, I agree. What's your reasoning?
My yes or his no?
I agree with yes.
So do the no first.
Both of you explain your reasoning.
You said they should do. Okay, reiterate what you said. I'm sorry.
Do you think they should do live shows, but with no TV cameras? Kind of the equivalent of a house show, but it's not appropriate use of house show.
I think everything they do should be filmed, but
Okay.
here's the caveat. I think that they should do these shows, but keep it simple, stupid, and not have all the backstage segments, not have all the interactions that they have at the podium. I think it should just be commentators, cameras, wrestlers. That's it. And they should treat these as special events for Fight. I mean, that's something that they've talked about in that package, is that you were supposed to get these exclusive to Fight like special things, and we haven't gotten those. If you're a paid subscriber, every time I hear Kyle Davis tell me why I should be a paid subscriber, they always throw in there and exclusive content just for our Fight subscribers, but there's nothing exclusive about what they're producing. Everything they do ends up on YouTube. So to me, I think that would be a great use of that time. Plus, it's creating more content. It keeps the subscribers happy. Maybe even raise the price if you're doing one of those shows a month. And also, you always could use that content later down the road on your YouTube to fill in matches or fill in storylines or something of that nature. But that's just me.
All right, now for my term. This one's kind of depends on certain situations. If they were doing it once a month, then that's just basically a pay-per-view. So, then they should put it on TV if they're going to do it that way, because it's basically a monthly pay-per-view. If they're doing it weekly or a couple times a week, like a weekend, or maybe like a weekend or so out of a month, then no, they shouldn't record it. They should use the TV to build toward that. And the only way you can see it is to be there live, and have somewhere that's an NWA hotbed, if there is such a thing nowadays, somewhere where they'd love to see it. Bring in an occasional NWA legend to be part of it, and that's from that area, and book a television show so people have to go out of their house to go pay to see it, and make it something somebody wants to have to see, and use that revenue, because right now there's so much wrestling on television wrestling on the internet. There is no wrestling on the internet. What I mean by that is, because there's so much, nobody's watching anything specific anymore. Nobody's watching all of it. Nobody's watching every single. There's not enough hours in the day to watch everything, and there's so much other stuff out there that's probably better, and a whole lot that's definitely worse. That's already catching attention. So you're fighting against about a bajillion other wrestling promotions that are about 100 bajillion hours online every single week.
How many bajillion is that?
At least 3.
All right.
But yeah, you're going against constantly. So Brills, make it now so you have something special for those people in your area and tour around. Don't just do it in Nashville. Go around.
Well, here are my thoughts because I'm going to grab on that. First of all, I do agree. I will say with Jay, if you're going to keep a fight show, then I would do like a live event or something like that a month or something like that. My thing is, though, you could run shows from probably the Kansas City, St. Louis, Tennessee, Kentucky area, probably all the way into Virginia, West Virginia, along that stretch, where you could probably run a town monthly. And I would not air those. I would not put those on TVs, and I would throw the occasional, maybe once a year a title change, not the world title, honestly, but, like a national title change, even a world tag team title or something like that, about once a title once during the year that just kind of takes place on these house shows. So people think that, hey, there's something special to see.
It'd be nice if they did have a tour too. And yes, the question is, to answer a question earlier, it is my smoke detector. The one in the hallway needs a battery change, but it's so incredibly out of the way. We just usually wait for it to die and then change it. It's still working while it's chirping. That's all I'm saying.
Sounds like my wife. I think they have plenty of options of what they're going to do going forward. I haven't listened to that Joe Galley interview yet, but I have it queued up that I will when we conclude this show. But I do think
hey, send me the link.
You know what? I'll put the link in the chat right now. I have it right here. You guys could obviously go check this out after our show's over. But I think, wow, that just spammed the chat. I think they have some options and certainly have to do some thinking about it. I don't think that they should rush into anything, right? Because, if you're going to start investing in actual television, like it's one thing, Fight, when they made that deal with Fight initially and became exclusive to Fight, Fight was helping to pay for the production of the show. And I don't know if that's still happening because they're no longer exclusive, but I'm sure they get some sort of compensation being on Fight. And also, with YouTube advertising, there is incentives for being on YouTube. Now, I don't think they're making anywhere near a return on investment for being on YouTube, but I'm sure they're generating some kind of some sort of revenue stream from it. Maybe it's only a couple $1,000s a month. Maybe it's less, but it's something. And the fact that, James H. Jackson will be the first one to tell you that they have some pretty cool merch and he's buying pretty much all of it. He's not the only one. They are making money with their revenue streams being YouTube, Fight, and the television, of course, pay-per-views. And for all of us who signed up for the premier package that are paying $50 a year, they are making some money with this machine. If they're going to go and ditch all that to jump onto TV, it's got to be a vehicle that's going to compensate them in an appropriate fashion.
There's no thing that says they can't take the TV program and put it on YouTube afterwards either.
Exactly, which we're all places to. Or at least
not everybody can get the yarn network, the yarn and knitting network, so they'll have to put it on YouTube for the people that don't get that station.
Yeah.
I do want to address something from the chat. Willie Bowen, said something about reestablishing a territory system. Chris brings out and goes, who would want to be part of a territory system in 2022? And in a way, you're both right. We don't need a territory system like we had back in the day, or even the independent licensees or whatever.
Like in 2000s.
Right. But I think what you can do is, a lot of people don't realize this, but like in Mid-Atlantic and World Class and everything like that, there was a booking office, and that's where you booked your talent through. But there were promoters in all sorts of cities and towns in that quote unquote territory. And there were books in that thing. For a long time in Texas, there was the booking office, which ran out of Houston until Fritz got it moved up into Dallas. But there was a guy that booked Dallas. There was a guy that booked Fort Worth. There was a guy that booked San Antonio, Corpus Christi, and, El Paso, in the 7 major cities that they ran. And so it was a separate promoter. It was the second separate guy that did the booking. In fact, he was the one that would tend to use local talent at the bottom of the card, and then you would book your top guys out of the booking office. And so, I certainly think it could work in that type of way. No, you're not going to have NWA Knoxville with your NWA Knoxville champions, but you might have a promoter out of Knoxville who would contact the NWA and say, okay, I run a show on the third Thursday of every month, and so I want to book your talent and here, in your titles, because I'm going to put on an 8-card match. The first 2 things will be some local guys that I like, and then I want to, maybe a couple of guys in the middle, and I want Aldis and Murdoch for the main event, or I want Jack Stain and what's his name, Jay the God, for the national title or whatever. And basically all the negotiations, payments, and all things like that are negotiated. And in some places they would say they would almost be bot shows. Houston for a long time was a bot show. Gary Hart booked it. Paul Bosch would call and say he was doing the show, and Gary Hart would say, okay, here's a booking, send me 40% of your gate.
All right. Well, hour and a half into the show, we haven't even discussed USA or Power.
Good. We're doing good.
Jaden, were you able to catch USA this week? I know last week you were able to watch it.
I was not. I'm sorry. I was thinking about it, and then I did naps and more naps, and that's pretty much took up all my time for watching it.
I can't really fault you on the naps, man. A good nap is kind of hard to beat. Real quick, our pal Vince says Billy just needs more help than just Pat. He should have tried to get some of those guys fired from the WWE before Triple H hires them back. You know who's out there who's begging for a job? Road Dogg. I don't know if Road Dogg Jesse James is the right guy, but, he's a guy. You know who else is out there who I haven't heard is working anywhere yet? Gabe Spolowski's out there.
Yeah, Gabe Sapolsky, too.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Whatever. Look, I have a California accent. You just don't get it, man. And there are more than just those 2 guys out there. There's a lot of creative minds behind all of this. There's a lot of creativity out there in the world of professional wrestling. It doesn't necessarily need to come from former WWE guys. It doesn't need to come from former Ring of Honor guys or former NLW guys or former AEW guys. Hell, just go out and find a local indie promoter that's doing it right. Some people would say right there in New Jersey. I don't know. But there's people out there that can tell you how to do these things and to do them better. This is a great comment that I'm sure we already know the answer to, but I want you guys to point out. Does anybody think there's a little too many 3- and 4-way matches. I'd much rather see those matches as 1-on-1, at least not so much. I'll let you guys...
I suspect you are correct in that assessment. There are way too many 3-way matches. There are way too many 4-way matches. There are way too many gimmick matches. There are way too many stupid stipulations for no reason matches. And yes, they all need to go away. You need to go the way of a dinosaur and become giant chickens instead.
And then
DK.
Oh, I love them. I mean, all you got to do is tune in every week here, and you'll know that I love them. I'm the biggest fan. That I think they're the greatest thing since, colon cancer.
Somebody call 911. DK just had a stroke.
So, I mean, who can complain about the stupidity of a 3-way or a 4-way? Or
are you being held by hostage right now, and this is how you're alerting us?
God, I hate them. I hate them with passion. I hate how people disappear in the middle of them. They'll take a bump that in a regular match they're back in 30 seconds from, and they'll lay on the floor away from the camera for 5 minutes, waiting for their time to jump back in the ring and stop a pinfall or move on.
It'd be nice if they even waited on the floor. Most of them are just sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, thanks for that question, The Suspect. I don't think I've seen you on our show before, so thanks for checking us out. You're welcome to be here anytime. We're here 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, various times. But thanks for being here.
The Thursday night one is the A show. Just heads up.
Yeah, and that's nobody disputes that. No offense to the other Alliance guys. DP says Road Dogg was a SmackDown head writer. Gabe Sobolewski, see, I didn't say it that bad, is available along with Ring of Honor Booker Delirious, to my knowledge. Yeah, I mean, and Dave Scooby says, hey, Billy, just spend some money and bring in some real bookers. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with that. And I get that this is like a Billy Corgan's dream job. He wants to book wrestling, but you can do it. You can do it better. You're good. You're okay. You can make this better with some help. Why not do that?
Well, let me ask Billy a question.
You're asking Billy a question. I don't think you're going to get an answer.
William Patrick Corgan. Billy, would you rather book wrestling or would you rather make money?
Apparently, he'd rather book wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, then I wish you'd blow money like the others do. The problem is he doesn't blow money like the others do, and he doesn't book well.
He blows at booking. Does that count?
What?
He blows at booking. Does that count?
Well, I
They're
wish.
just for PG rating.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't. You're going to have to pay Jay his nickel for he's going to lose because of that comment.
Luthez says, to hell with all the attorneys, too. And that's look, as we're approaching the 74th anniversary show, that's another spot of complaint. Not only do we have so many titles now, but every title needs to be determined via a tournament, which means that now you're having we got to have a TV title tournament for the ladies. We have to have a U.S. tag team tournament right off the heels of just having the Crockett Cup. I mean, if you're going to do if the plan all along was to do the U.S. titles, why not have just made that the prize of winning Crockett Cup? That would have been so much smarter. And if you're going to hold, if the idea is oh, well, we're going to do the tag titles, then wait till next year and make it the prize of Crockett Cup. If you're going to bring them back, do it smartly, right?
I have a very scary thought now, because we talked about this before with all the things, but for those who watched the great AEW last night, with great and flaming quotation marks, they have finally introduced their trios.
Because that's what they need now. They saw Billy Corgan's bringing more belts back, and he's like, hold my White Claw.
Yeah, and so
truly,
And so, how long till Billy brings back the 6-man belts? So, Billy, if you're going to bring back 6-man belts, do the world-class version, not the Jim Crockett version. Thank you.
I don't mind either as long as it's not the WCW version.
Oh, God, those are terrible.
So, yeah.
But anyhow.
Lazy booking. We know somebody's a Cornette fan in here.
Yeah. Just let me tell you. That's just a terrible thing. So, Jaden, what do you think about the fact that they had an Empower episode, which they had the men's tag team titles, but not the women's tag team titles, and one of the women's tag team champions wrestled in a singles match on the Empower, and they talk about bringing in a women's TV title. I mean, Jaden, how excited are you for a women's TV champion?
Well, that's what they need. They don't have enough titles in wrestling. Right now, everybody needs something to hold their pants up, including the women. They have to hold up those booty shorts up somehow. So they all need championship belts to hold them up. So we also need, we need a multimedia championship. We need an NWA Magic the Gathering championship. We need an NWA Toss the Midget championship. I'm sorry, Toss the Little Person championship.
Thank you.
I'm not sure there's any less insulting.
We need an NWA Alliance-Wrestling.com ham sandwich champion.
Hey, so I was doing a little bit of the math earlier, and I actually had this as part of my notes for the broadcast. But since we're kind of pushing that to the side for right now, by my count, if they introduce another title for the women's, a TV title, that would be a total of, and we're just talking actual belts, right? The belts. There would be 7 world title belts. That'd be one for the world's heavyweight, one for the women's, one for the world tag team men's, one for the women's tag team. So I get 7 there. Then you've got a national belt. And then, of course, the announced for the 74th anniversary show, the tag titles. So that brings us to 10 belts. Then you have already Tyrus with your TV title, and then introducing a women's title. That's a total of 12 championship belts. Now, I haven't really done the math on this, and this is going off of something Tim said yesterday from the other Alliance Guys podcast. He mentioned there's about 40 people on the roster. Now, my math isn't great, but if you have 40 people on the roster and 12 of those people have championship title belts, that means 30% of your roster is a champion. Does that sound right to you?
No, and this is from a guy that likes hockey where half the league gets into the playoffs. No, that doesn't seem right, though.
It really feels like, our pal Hisa from the World Titles Histories, he keeps tweeting this, and I think NWA Gold retweets it, and I retweet it. If everyone is a champion, then the champions are meaningless.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting to that point now where even if these are like titles that aren't defended once a month, or even if these are just more kind of like, hey, we're going to just use these at the Chase, or we're going to just use these titles, on USA. It just feels like if everyone is a champion, then none of the champions are important. And I really feel like it's getting a little bit too
participation trophy like.
Yeah.
Well, here's something for you. So they put in the TV title. All right. So that means 4 women will be champion.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, I'm just looking at Wikipedia. So I'm looking at the roster, and it's listing 16 females. Of those 16 females, it includes rarely used Angelina Love. It includes Mickie James, who's also rarely used. It includes Melina, who hasn't been there in ages. It includes Paola Blaze, who is rarely there. Taryn Terrell, who rarely wrestles. So we're down to about a 10-person active roster, and 40% of them will hold a belt.
This isn't Oprah. You get a belt, and you get a belt, and you get a belt. That doesn't work that way in professional wrestling.
So, I mean, just I don't know. It's just ridiculous that they would do this. And I am worried. I've always figured he would not bring back the 6-man titles, but now I'm worried that he will, since AEW is. And it may be fun to so maybe you're right. But I wish they'd sell the junior heavyweight title. I don't want to go out and get that made elsewhere.
The hot dog eating championship. You know what? That's a belt Irish to go after.
Him and Joey Chestnut going face to face, toe to toe at Coney Island, Labor Day weekend. Let's book it. Come on, Billy. If you had any balls, you book it. All right. So that's enough title talk. Obviously, look, it's not a good idea to reintroduce these titles. I mean, I think it was kind of cool that Madusa did the whole Rick Rude where she was on 2 hours of 2 separate shows at the same time. And it doesn't seem like that's going to stop anytime soon either, because the NWA isn't going to punish her or not use her because she was on WWE programming. And it doesn't.
Oh, no, they'll use her more.
Yeah, probably. And so again, this just seems like it might be, with all these titles. Look, the person we have to convince is the person that's not listening, because it feels like everyone else agrees with us that this is a bad deal. It's a bad look. Too many titles. And gosh, I think DK, you might have said it, or maybe it was Tim from the other Alliance guys. I don't remember who said it specifically, but our pal Dave Lagana used to mention how the NWA had way too many titles, that they had no need for all these titles, and would reference like the Midwest or Missouri
Italian Junior Heavyweight Championship,
which was an actual legitimate championship belt at some point in the illustrious history of the NWA. However, I much rather go back to the days where we didn't have enough titles to represent the company than to have an abundance of championship belts that are just ever becoming more meaningless. So,
say that again.
With that being said, I think we're going to skip the NWA USA recap just because we are already at an hour and a half into this show. And I want to make sure.
How long do we have to talk to Skip Power next?
2 hours.
Well, wait a minute. I'll say this about USA. We'll just kind of sum it up. I didn't think any of the wrestling on the show was bad.
No.
I didn't think the show overall was horrible.
No.
A couple stupid moments, but outside of that, I didn't have any major issues with USA. The matches were actually pretty good, and so there'll be no complaining about USA today. We're not just skipping it because it was bad. It was a fine show.
It was actually a pretty decent show.
Yeah, I should have watched it.
And one thing I will take away is I feel like Jamie Stanley is way underutilized, and I feel like some of these guys, we only see them every few months, and I feel like, again, a better taping schedule would be better for the program, better for the show. A lot of these guys we haven't seen in so long. I would rather see these guys than some of the guys we are seeing. I will say that.
And I actually enjoyed the Colby Carino, Kerry Morton thing.
It was a great match.
As a person who's, I won't say great, but it was a really good match. And
it was a solid match.
As a person who's not the biggest Carino fan, I enjoyed it. And I like the fact that Mercury, whatever his name is, actually got the win over Jamie Stanley, because I wasn't expecting that. So, since they kind of made a big deal out of Mercurio arriving, it was nice to see him get a win. All right. Yeah. So then, are we going to review Power, or are we going to continue to try to avoid that?
No, we're going to review Power because that's in the headline. That's what we do here. So,
fine.
And this was a good.
That's just the way a woman says it.
But this was a good show too, and I feel like, look, if we skip both shows and they were both relatively good, we need to highlight that, because we're quick to kick them when they're down, but when they're doing something right, we need to acknowledge that as well. And I feel like these last two episodes were pretty good. However, I do have some nitpicks that I will point out where I have nitpicks, and well, that'll kick us off with NWA Power Season 9, Episode 7. And on this very special episode of NWA Power, the spotlight is focused on the women's division of the NWA. They call it Empowered. Now, the segment starts off, the show kicks off with Marty Bell, Paola Blaze, and the Pope with Kyle Davis. And this is where it gets unironically funny, because Marty Bell and Paola Blaze speak Spanish for most of their promo. So I don't really hear what they're saying, or I hear it, but I don't understand it, I should say. And then I can only really relate to what the man was saying about women empowerment, which is the ultimate mansplaining right then and there, that the Pope is telling you exactly why it's important to have women's wrestling. And I thought that was just the best, because empowerment shouldn't be about mansplaining. It should have been a woman up there speaking, in a language that we could all understand, or at least have subtitles to give it depth and integrity and emotion and drive and passion. And instead you have the Pope doing that for them. And I thought that was just unironically the most funniest thing I'd ever seen on an episode of Power. And then Jaden dropped out. Evidently he didn't think it was funny, but I thought it was hilarious. DK, what did you think of this opening segment?
It didn't. It's like I understood what they were trying to do, but man, did they do it poorly. I mean, to me, that's when you bring Madusa out.
Yes.
And talk about, women's wrestling and the history of women's wrestling, and, and then, maybe make the announcement about the TV championship and stuff like that. And, but yeah, it was like you said, I didn't use the mansplaining term. I mean, I've heard it before, but I didn't use it or think that. But yes, the basic concept was the same. It's like they had to bring out a man to put over the women's wrestling better than either of the women did. And, Pope's so, preacher that at least he got me excited when he talked about it. But I did see the humor in it.
I think, and look, I'm not producing the show or anything like that, but I think it would have been at least very interesting if they took a moment to kind of do a segment where, maybe they had Allison Kay, right? Because she's the resident the person who's been on the roster the longest that has had that world championship. And she could sit there and talk about
team title.
Right. Well, I meant like she's a former women's world champion as well.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. In other words, she's been the world's champion. She's been the tag team champion.
And maybe they could have just focused in on the Burke, and she could have talked about why women's wrestling matters and why it's important and why we should continue to support it. And not even like show Allison Kay really, but just zoom in on the Burke. And or have each woman say one thing that's important about women's wrestling. They could have done this in so many different ways that would have been empowering, as opposed to the Pope breaking it down for us. I thought it was hilarious, but I really felt like they botched that one, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. If it was intentional, like, my hat's off to you, Billy Corgan, for being a grade A asshole. If it was unintentional, it's like, how tone deaf is that production company that they couldn't figure out that whether it's about empowerment, maybe a man shouldn't be speaking. All right, I'll jump to the next segment. Here before we get the next match, we get Joe Galley giving us a rundown of the card. Again, another time where I kind of get a little bothered by the production of the show, because he mistakenly says that Kylan King will be in action taking on Max the Impaler. Now, we know from not only Fight's description of the show, but also the all the publicity that's been on social media, it's not Kylan King versus Max the Impaler. It's Kylan King versus Taya Valkyrie for the number one contendership. And I feel like that little flub, right, that towards the end of his show, end of his comments about tonight's show, they could have just cut that off and shot to the crowd a little bit quicker, or had him redub it, redub the audio, and they could have fed it in on top of a panning shot of the audience. I feel like this is just, again, lazy, sloppy editing and this kind of stuff. Like, it's the little things that matter to me. Clean this shit up, man. Like, why is this still happening? I don't know why this makes the air, and it just makes the professional production look unprofessional.
And I think a trick too here, and I want Jaden's opinion on this, but I think this is something, if you're trying to sell a TV show to a network, I mean, let's say they're negotiating with ESPN to be on ESPN 6 or whatever. Then the question comes, if I'm an executive with ESPN, I'm going and I'm watching, it's like, well, here, I want to see your shows. Give me give me access to, your stuff on Fight and everything like that. If I'm sitting here watching, I'm like, how do you blow something like that and not cover it up in post-production? Well, I mean, it was a tight shot of the thing. It's not like we were looking at the ring and everything that was going on. That could have been, as soon as that was done, it could have been a cut. Got the wrong person there.
Yeah.
Let's clean this up and, start at X spot and we'll edit it in right. And it's just, I mean, don't you think that putting out clean episodes, Jaden, would be important if you're negotiating for TV?
Yes, that's 1,000,000,000% important. I don't know why anybody thinks it wouldn't be. Bad camera angles, hell, commentary, all that stuff is very important to people looking at on television because they're looking from a production standpoint. They can care less if the storylines make sense. They can care less if the wrestling action looks great. When they look at that stuff, they look at fan interaction, and most importantly, they look at the production values, and that's poor production value from top to bottom. Honestly, I know this will see sometimes somebody's favorite, but that Mae Valentine, her interview style may put off a lot of people, prospective television producers, and would, if the producer says, okay, you're going to have to do the show, but we have Mae Valentine, she's got to be cut. Well, Billy Corgan be willing to do such a thing?
I think so.
I think in a minute, in a heartbeat. We'll find something else for you, May.
Yeah. Real quick, before we go on to the rest of the show, I want to say two things. First, our pal, The Suspect, says, what do you guys think of Mercutio and Natalia and the stealing incident on the airplane?
I think they should have sent the guy to jail. They were too nice. Should have powerbombed him on a car.
He literally like speared him, clotheslined him to the ground. It was pretty awesome. As someone who used to work in loss prevention, and it was very neutered as to what I could do, it was kind of cool to see somebody get their comeuppance for stealing some shit. The second part of it for me is, I wish this show was taped monthly so that the NWA could have benefited from that opportunity. This is like, okay, drop the Mercutio, drop it now. Brian Idol, I said Brian Wood because he's wooden and laconic. Brian Idol went out there and just did something pretty awesome. Let's talk about it, and maybe even partner him and Natalia Markova as some sort of new power couple in the NWA to play off of what happened in the media. I just feel like it's just something that kind of sucks that they weren't there to do.
Well, and I think the biggest thing, I can't say that Mercurio's necessarily even though they gave him the win over Stanley, I don't know that he's someone that's been taken the most seriously and on the show, but it just goes to show that these guys, you don't want to mess with them.
Yeah.
I mean, don't think just because wrestling is fake that you stand a chance if you want to mess with them. They'll kick your ass.
I think Markova should have took him down. I think that would have been cooler.
I think she could have too. Have you seen her in the ring?
I think if she had gotten there first.
And then
I not expected her to start stomping him, but
at least drop the elbow, right? Like a running elbow drop. And then the other thing I want to say is today is the birthday of somebody on the NWA roster, one Christy Janes, who's famously called CJ now, as a partner with Magic Jake Dumas. And I know Christy Janes watches this podcast all the time, so just want to wish her all the best on her birthday today. Happy birthday. Obviously, she doesn't watch the show, but I'm a big fan, so I want to celebrate her. All right, let's get back to the show.
All right, we don't know that she doesn't.
I mean, look, she has tweeted and retweeted some of the things that I've typed before, so maybe she is. And if she is, how you doing?
Then maybe you should be smart and mention that she was mentioned on this podcast for happy birthday in a tweet, and at her. Maybe she will.
No, I'm totally gonna clip it later, right, and put it on the Twitter machine.
Good old Twitter machine.
Yeah. All right. So back to the running results of the show. Then we get Kenzie Page versus Casey Lennox. Now, I always like to do the deep dives on the new debuting talent to give you an idea of who they are, where they came from. I had never heard of Casey Lennox before, but man, she looked great. Here's what I learned about her. She sometimes wrestles as Gabby Stevens. She has been wrestling for about 5 years under the tutelage of the Team Vision Dojo, which is Santana Garrett and Chasen Rance. Now, I don't even know why Rance is still allowed in the business, but that's another conversation for another day. She mostly competes in the Florida area. She's a former Ignite champion. She's a PPW Diamonds champion and a USCW Southern Women's champion. She's competed for Shine, NXT, AEW Dark, and in the last year, she's really broken out of her comfort zone, not just competing in Florida, but really all over the United States. So she's starting to come into her own. It's the perfect time for the NWA to pick her up because she's starting to get very, I guess, popular. She's making the rounds. So this is the kind of talent I think the NWA wants, somebody that's already starting to establish a name that they can help bring more of an audience to the show. I really, as much as I like seeing Casey Lennox, I think that the NWA should start using the USA platform to debut new talent until they figure out exactly what the difference between USA and Power are. But right now, I mean,
it's Power RRR.
That was good.
RRR.
I think unless you're like a superstar level talent, you should probably make your debut on USA and be built up to be on Power. I feel like that would just make more sense. But anyways, I digress.
Well, you just said it would make sense.
Yeah. Casey Lennox early on exploits Kenzie Page's lower back. Lennox looks to be almost a foot taller than Page. She gets Kenzie Page in the corner and just really goes off on her. It's pretty unbridled, like hate type fighting, and it's funny because this is their first match. Lennox manages to get in a lot of offense, but easily gets frustrated when she can't defeat Kenzie Page, and Kenzie just proves how resilient she is in the ring. Kenzie ends up winning with her version of the Jeff Jarrett stroke. I don't know what she calls that, but Lennox had a great look, a ton of upside, a really good debut. I hope they decide to keep her around. I think she would fit in, especially if Taryn Terrell ends up starting another stable of women. I feel like maybe under the tutelage of Taryn Terrell would be a good spot for her. DK, what did you think of this match? What did you think of Casey Lennox?
I thought the match was good for what it was. It wasn't great, but it was solid. And this is where I was first left confused that instead of defending the tag team title, we just had one of the tag team champions wrestling in the opening match for the Empower episode. But just as far as the match is concerned, it was good.
And then Jane, you didn't watch it, so you don't know. Are you familiar with Casey Lennox at all, Jane? Have you ever seen her before?
I have not, but I'm going to look her up just to see after this broadcast to see, or maybe I'll wait until the Power shows up on YouTube and I'll watch it.
She kind of, her look kind of reminds me of I don't know if you remember the old Nitro Girls, but she kind of looks like Tigress from the old Nitro Girls.
Okay.
She's a good looking woman, like, and she's built for the wrestling. But like I said,
you remember the old Nitro Girls.
I don't know. I used to love the old Nitro girls.
If chasing ranch strangers, you over 18?
Oh. Like I said, that's a discussion for another show. One thing I did, I also wanted to point out that, she's so much bigger. What's that?
Does your wife watch these?
No, of course not.
Okay, just making sure.
Do you think anyone in my family supports me? No.
Good point.
I missed the one time back in the day when we used to hear your one daughter do the intro. You should bring her back.
Oh, she's 18 now. Oh, she's almost 18 now. She ain't got time for this. I tried to get the little ones to jump on once, and they were like, no, thanks, Dad. Like, you guys want to be on YouTube, right? I got you, YouTube. No, thanks, Dad. All right.
No, they want to do something cool.
Yeah. So anyways, getting, and I haven't said anything disrespectful, by the way. So don't sit there and send messages to my wife, damn it.
I think he's more like implying me.
What's that?
I think he's implying me.
Yeah.
No, I'm playing.
She won't let you play with me anymore.
We went some woman from 1997.
Right. Oh gosh, my wife was still a child then. Anyways, for reasons beyond me, they have May in the back with the Miserably Faithful with a red light on during the segment. Now, being on TikTok for as long as I have, that red light means something completely different. I don't understand what they were trying to do. Was it make them more sinister? I mean, look, they're led by the sinister minister. How much more sinister do they need to be? This is akin to having, Paul Bearer with an urn with a giant flashlight in it. Come on, man. Let's stop with the dramatics. We get it. You're all a bunch of zombies. You're all a bunch of monsters. And we all should be afraid of you, blah, blah, blah. The only one scary in the whole group is Max the Impaler. And it looks like she's officially joined the group. Father James is looking to conquer the women's division. And May obviously looks terrified in this segment. At one point, Judeus puts his hand on May's head and makes her stare into the eyes of Max the Impaler. This just was another segment that didn't really make a lot of sense. You had all of the cretins of the Miserably Faithful there. But it was all about Max the Impaler. So another.
It sounds like they were missing Sven Gulli.
Yeah, he was probably there too.
It was a stupid segment. If they wanted to do something, they just could have brought out James Mitchell and Max the Impaler. They didn't need everybody there. It didn't fit with the rest of the show. I don't like the way they're using May right now, where she's fawning over Tyrus and something that from the USA show, they showed her fawning over Tyra. Odison actually came across better this week. And, just being shaky, scared, during this. It was sports entertainment. And
I'm okay with characters evolving and character development. But again, May's she's a backstage commentator. She's a journalist, a broadcast journalist. I don't know that she needs a gimmick, and she certainly doesn't need to be involved in angles. They tried to put her in a match against Natalia Markova a few months ago. Now she's in a relationship with Aaron Stevens. He's going to go meet her mom when they go back to Brazil in November. But then she's fawning over Tyrus and just being flat out disrespectful to Odinson. And then this segment where she's treated like a scared child. The whole thing is just weird to me. Just let her be a commentator. We don't need all this other shit. We don't.
Yeah. Mark Lawrence once said that Fritz Von Erich told him when he was first applying for the job or first got the job or whatever on a permanent basis. He told him, he expected the wrestlers to show him the utmost respect and deference, because if the wrestlers didn't take them seriously, how could the fans take them seriously? And it's kind of the same thing here. Let them, let the announcers be announcers, let the interviewers be interviewers, and stop all this crap. We're not going to see, nobody wants to see Jack Stain versus Joe Galley, so stop that shit. We didn't want to see Joe Galley and Kyle Davis versus Nick Aldis. Stop that shit. It's one thing when it's Tim Storm, who is semi-active, but just in general, let each group be what they are. Hey, Jaden, does Dog have the wrestlers go beat up the ring announcer?
Well, Patch did chase the ring announcer around the ring like George the Animal Steel. Does that count?
But that's different, though. That's kind of Patch's character just being, like, zany. This isn't that. You know what I mean? Like, those guys, Patch is just a wild man. And that's part of the gimmick. It's part of, like, who he is. He wasn't threatening to wrestle, your announcer because your announcer said his name wrong. Patch would have done that to anybody.
Guts and Patch is not going to be a match on Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. And they're not that they're in any way, shape, or form trying to promote that. I think Patch just wanted to use them as a toothpick.
Which sounds like a Patch type thing. So, yeah, I mean, to a sense, if it fits the character, but just in general, I don't think the Dog wrestlers and the ring announcer run errands, or if there's commentary, I don't know if the commentary team runs, angles with the wrestlers. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't. It's stupid.
What else happened? Because we're already at 9:00 and I'm tired.
All right. So let's not go too far into this. So next up we get Taya Valkyrie versus Kylan King in a number one contendership. Now, when I think of Kylan King, I always think she's like this absolute specimen of an athlete, right? Because they call her the majesty of muscles, right? She's a big girl. She's strong. She's built very much in the same vein that I think of Camille or Genocide even, right? Just very like beefy. But Taya doesn't shrink in the ring when she stands next to Kylan. In fact, Taya is maybe even bigger than Kylan in terms of like mass. Not in a mean way, but in a very like athletic, like she's built. Both women are built.
She's got broad shoulders.
Yeah. This match might be Taya's stiffest competition since joining the National Wrestling Alliance. And, as I look at it the other way, it might be the stiffest competition that Kylan King has faced since joining the NWA. Taya is currently the HOW Women's Champion, the XPW Women's Champion, the MLW Featherweight Champion, the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Champion, a 4-time Reina de Reinas Women's Champion, and briefly held the WSW Australian Women's Championship as part of that series that they just recently had. So she's certainly the most celebrated competitor that Kylan King's faced in the NWA. And this match is extremely competitive, which made me very happy. I didn't want to see Kylan get out there and get blown up, and I sure as hell didn't want to see Taya take a whooping either. Taya has great facials in this match. If you watch her, you look at her face, she sells with her face in such a great way. Wera Loca gets the win with the Wera Lock, obviously. Connects quickly and is made the number one contender. Taya shows a ton of respect to Kylan post-match. And, they do the whole handshake and, celebratory pose. And Taya gets a shot at the 74th anniversary show. This was such a good match and very competitive. Like I said, I didn't know how it was going to go, but I was very happy with the results. DK, what did you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I was even a little bit surprised because they seemed to be setting up more for the rematch between King and Camille. But this is just me. I'd much rather see Taya Valkyrie, who, I had seen her wrestle before pre-WWE. And I liked her, but I wasn't like a huge fan. And I don't know if it's because I felt so bad over the way WWE screwed her over, but I have so enjoyed her since she's come back to the, indie circuit and everything. And I've enjoyed her matches in WWE. And as you put it, she's a big athletic gal. She's not, heavy or fat, but she is a stout woman.
There's an extra C in that thickness. That's why.
Yeah. She's a, she a beautiful woman. And the thing about her, she's somebody who matches up with Camille in the sense that, I said it when she was in the ring with Maxine Taylor. Maxine Taylor normally looks humongous compared to the other women in the ring. Against Taya, she looked almost, even. Yeah. And so this is someone who, in the reality of it, if you're watching a match between her and Camille, you wouldn't be surprised if she won. Now, I'm not saying expecting, but I wouldn't be surprised if Taya could beat, if Taya beat Camille. I wouldn't walk away going, "Oh wow!"
There's a match that would really, really, really work out well with a build-up in a sports-oriented UFC/HBO boxing style build-up, because these are two women athletes with some great physical presence and a great physical size and some aesthetic appeal to them that can be used to build up in a right way with a great storyteller and a great production crew, to make this match seem like the most important match that the NWA's ever had for the women's division.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And again, we've talked about our pal Doty. He's not on tonight, but he says it all the time that probably the best part of the NWA is the women's division. And I don't know if I've always agreed with that, but as of right now, with Taya Valkyrie, Chelsea Green, Camille, Kylan King, Genocide, Natalia Markova, I mean, it's pretty solid. It's kind of hard to debate that. And I didn't even mention Allison Kay or Marty Bell, and they're in there too. I mean, it's a pretty good division. And I mean, look, I don't know that they can match, pound for pound with the Impact roster, but the fact that they share so many talents already, I think the NWA women's division is one of the bright spots of the NWA.
Add Mickey James to that too while you're at it. And boy, I love the fact that DK was muted so I can get my words in. But yeah, add Mickey James to that also, and you got yourself a really talented roster. Maybe they should make him Power part of the NWA USA and just make that an all women's thing.
Yeah, I mean, if they, one of the things I think they should do, if Jay was controlling things, I think that I would have, a quarterly special that's not a pay-per-view, that's only available on Fight, and it would be like an empowered episode of Power, an hour-long show just featuring women's matches, and that wouldn't take away from what they're doing on Power on the regular. It wouldn't take away what they're doing on USA on the regular. It was just something extra, again, for the fans that are watching the product. And again, the whole thing is something that keeps coming up is that Fight TV has said that this is supposed to have exclusive content when you sign up for the program, and thus far they have not done anything exclusive.
I like that idea. Hell, the Empower pay-per-view was better than the 72nd at the time. What was that?
73rd.
73rd?
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that more than the 73rd pay-per-view. I almost enjoy as much as DK being on mute.
Does he know he's on mute yet?
I don't notice if he notices yet.
DK, there you go. Hey, welcome back. Oh,
man, that ruined my night.
He just put himself back on mute. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't think they can see it.
They can't see that, but it's still hilarious that it was happening.
So after that match, we get Billy Corgan.
I had nothing to say.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. I've talked so much, I just skipped it. Do you have anything else you want to add? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect you.
I'm saying I had nothing to say.
All right. So next up, we get Billy Corgan on K103 FM, the Jackie Ma Madhouse. That sounds so Midwest. Anyone listen to that show? What state is that in? Billy does an interview to
State of Denial.
Maybe this station doesn't even exist. I didn't even think about it. Someone Google it real quick. Billy does an interview to speak about the title picture at the 74th. This was very similar to what he said on Busted Open. He says that Corgan says that if Tyrus versus Trevor isn't a main event match, he doesn't know what is. And I sat there.
He's right. He doesn't know what is.
I said the same exact thing. Billy.
He's writing my material for me now.
Exactly. Billy, come on, man. We're supposed to be the ones to say that. You're not supposed to say it about yourself. And again, just echoing the comments that Nick Aldis made when he was on Busted Open. Hey, Tyrus, nothing against Tyrus. He's a great author. I hope he's putting, tickets to the 74th anniversary in each book he sells, because
then they'll have 3 or 4 more tickets sold.
Yeah. So Billy kind of hypes up this match between Tyrus and Trevor, which is not an easy task, because I got to be honest, man, I do like the idea that it's something I haven't seen yet. But other than the fact that it's something new, there's not a whole lot bringing me to the excitement level. Then Billy goes on to just tear down Nick Aldis, and they're pushing this work very, very hard. DK, what did you think about this little interview with Mr. Corgan?
Wow, did he ever not sell me on that main event? I mean, I might have been more interested in it than I was before he started talking than I was after. Billy Boy, Billy Bob, William Patrick, whoever you are, doesn't really matter. I'm sorry. Even in his prime in WWE, Tyrus was not somebody who any fan was just into any more than the lower mid-card character than he was. And we know he's your boy. We know that's why he's been TV champion for over a year. And we know that you don't really give a damn what we think, because you told us you don't.
He doesn't give an F, man.
So, I mean, you can stop trying to tell us how you know more than the rest of the world, and you know more than the wrestling fans and everything, because you've made it quite clear that, you're the biggest brain. I mean, you are almost as smart as Tony Khan, who goes on Twitter after Vince resigns and declares himself the longest-serving CEO in wrestling. Not in major wrestling or major promotions, but in wrestling, forgetting the fact that even, Court Bauer's been in charge of MLW forever.
What about Billy Corgan?
Yeah, Billy Corgan's been in charge of the NWA since, 17? Even what's-his-name at Impact? Hasn't he been there as long as...
Moore?
Yeah, hasn't he been there?
I don't know if he's considered a CEO or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, but just as far as the guy in charge. I mean,
but I mean, like, I can't remember the guy's name. The AAA.
Antonio Pena. I think he's dead.
Okay, fair enough. What about the CEO of New Japan Pro Wrestling? I mean, let's be honest. They're the second biggest wrestling promotion in the United States. It's not AEW. It's New Japan Strong. They run more than AEW, and they've had bigger venues than AEW. So, but I digress.
I don't. I just, look, it wasn't good.
I thought of somebody. Dr. Zaccone has been a CEO for a while.
There you go.
2010.
Dave Marquez since 2006?
Forever and a day. So anyway, just, Billy, you've proven you're so much superior to everybody else that you don't need to. I don't even know why you need to talk anymore, because.
Jay, how long have you been CEO of your figure promotion, your wrestling figure promotion?
What? I don't do that.
You're still playing with your Jack Specifics and your AWA Remcos, and
I don't call it Jack Specifics.
I don't want to know that he jacks, that he plays with jacks, or that he jacks when he plays, whatever.
AWA Remco?
Yeah.
Woo!
We all know Ric Flair's been champion for now, 64 years?
Hey,
Yeah.
Jay, what else happened on the show?
So May Valentine is in the back with Madusa, who, is pulling double duty. Rick Rude on Tuesday night, and Allison Kay. Now, apparently, this isn't the only time you'll see Madusa if you're watching wrestling on Tuesday night. She announces that a TV title for the women on the NWA program while she's talking about on NXT about bringing back the tag titles or figuring that out. I don't know. I didn't watch it. But by my count, and this is with the math that I came up with earlier, there's 7 world titles in the National Wrestling Alliance as it stands today. And that's accounting the junior heavyweight, the heavyweight, the tag team, and the women equivalent, the tag team, and the women's world championships. That's 7 titles for 7 world titles. And then with the national championship and the aforementioned U.S. tag team titles that will be crowned at the 74th, that's 10 titles. Then you add in the original TV title held by Tyrus, and whoever wins the secondary TV title, the women's TV title, that now equals 12 championship belts. And again, with my math not being what it used to be, that's about 30% of the roster holding a title. I think that's far, far too much. I think there's way too many titles. However, Allison Kay is excited because she feels like Billy is creating this division just to give her another title to win. And then it gets weird when Allison Kay asked if Madusa would be a part of the tournament, and Madusa just kind of smiled and looked like lost in the camera. I'm sure she was trying to be silly. It just came off as weird and a little creepy. She wouldn't give an answer. DK, what did you think of this segment?
Yeah, until the end, I thought it was okay. And, my main problem with this title is that so far Billy's at least brought titles that were once known or established or popular, and he's just kind of created this TV title out of whole cloth. I'm trying to figure out what variation of the Burke he's going to do for it.
Maybe you should use the one Casey Carlisle held. That'll be hilarious if that's a TV title.
I think he should. I'll mail it to him. He'll have to pay the postage, though. I'd go broke otherwise. And, I don't know. It's hard to be excited because I'm not excited about the title, but sure, maybe Allison Kay will win it, and she'll be a
Triple Crown champion.
And then we can get her a belt like a Haggis. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it.
Google is your friend. All right, so that's the end of that segment. Let's move on. Some comments real quick. Paladin, our pal Paladin, says TK was trolling to promote Rampage. Come on, guys. TK is a wrestling historian. He knows he isn't the oldest. Are you sure, Paladin? Are you sure about that? Willie Bowen says chairs would break if Tyrus was in the booth. Yeah. Matthew Underwood says Rick's last match card is bigger than the 74th anniversary and SummerSlam. We said that last week on the show that it feels like that retirement match for Rick, regardless if you want to see him in the ring one last time, that card looks stacked. And the fact that the only NWA representation is Mayweather, who is now going by Crimson, who used to be part of the Trump security detail. I don't know. I kind of wish they would figure out a way to include more NWA talent. But again, it's not an NWA show. It's a Jim Crockett Promotions event. And if Billy wanted to, he should have tried to work something out with JCP and Ric Flair's son-in-law. What's his name? Conrad. Yeah.
Who was so gracious to announce that once the show's done, he's going to give the copyrights to Jim Crockett and Promotions and JCP to the Crockett family.
Hey, at least Jim Crockett Promotions lasted longer in wrestling than Vince McMahon, apparently.
Kind of sad, isn't it, when you think about it? Poor Vinnie Mac.
And then Paladin says Rick may actually die in the ring. That thought has crossed my mind quite a bit, and I don't think he would be upset if that happened. And then Matthew Underwood says that Harry Smith is on that card. Yeah, but he's being doted. He's being called an MLW wrestler because he is competing in what is the MLW match with Hammerstone, right?
No, it's not Hammerstone, is it?
Or is he facing Cross?
I
thought he was facing Karrion Kross.
Okay,
yeah,
my bad.
No, it's funny because he hasn't wrestled in MLW for years now.
Well, what's funny is that neither one of those guys is a full-time MLW wrestler, but they're calling it an MLW match.
And here's the thing. What that tells you is that they think the MLW name carries more weight than the NWA name, that more people will recognize it and know it.
Or, hear me out here, or something happened between the NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions or Conrad or whatever, and they couldn't work it out. And so instead of allowing themselves to be a part of the show, the NWA pulled themselves out of it, and to spite them, they're calling it MLW. I'm not saying any of that's real. I don't know, but it just seems like Dave Crockett was there for a Crockett Cup. He was there in attendance. He was even on commentary for a bit. And all of a sudden, now that they're doing a Ric Flair tribute show, calling it Jim Crockett Promotions, and nowhere on the card is an NWA talent with the exception of Anthony Mayweather. I don't know.
Ricky and Kerry Morton are on the card,
but they're not specifying them as NWA talent. The only person they've put that NWA decal on is Crimson. Bully Ray's going to be on the card too, but he's done more in the NWA in the last 2 months than Anthony Mayweather has. Okay, real quick with these last few things. Paladin says, I actually want to see 9 of the 11 matches, but not Rick's. Matthew Underwood says Cross would make a hell of an NWA champion. And then Paladin says that Impact is pushing Rick's last match hard. I haven't really kept up with the publicity for it. I know that Rick did some blading for it. I wasn't really a big fan of that. But moving on, we get the World Tag Team Championship match on Power. They interrupt this heavy women's card. We need to put some manly men in there. So we get the Dirty Sexy Boys taking on the Commonwealth Connection. Now, we haven't seen the DSBs for a while. In fact, the last time we saw Dirty Dango and JTG on a card was about 4 months ago. They are the epitome of a 50-50 booking tag team. They have victories over the Rude Dudes, Stevens and the Blue Meanie from the Crockett Cup, and the Miserably Faithful. However, they have losses to the former champions Kratos and Stevens, the Briscoes, and their opponents tonight, the Commonwealth Connection. Yeah, the last time they were on TV, they wrestled against Williams and Smith and lost. And like I said, that was 4 months ago. Not sure why they were getting a shot at the titles. Again, these things should matter to the office. Wins and losses should matter. If you're going to put on a tag team match, if this is going to be an important thing, then this should have some continuity. You should have given DSB a cheap victory or two. Have them beat the Fixers. Have them beat the OGK. Have some reason for them to be getting this opportunity other than, well, they haven't been on TV for 4 months, so let's put them with the tag champions. Just doesn't make sense to me. They're out in the ring for about 30 seconds, and I'm already tired of hearing Velvet Sky talk about Dirty Dango and his hips. The match itself was actually pretty good. The DSB are exploiting the knees of Harry Smith, and I'm actually surprised at how smart they're wrestling because they're usually kind of goofs in the ring. They don't really wrestle a very scientific style of wrestling. They're just trying to pop the crowd most of the time. But this night they were really trying to work over Harry. They split the ring up, and normally you would think they'd go after the smaller guy. They went after the bigger guy and try to take him apart. I just wish this match had a proper build to it. With Harry taking all the heat, he's efforting to get the tag to Doug. Doug makes the hot tag. He works on JTG, and the fans just aren't reacting at all. And they only did 2 days of taping in Nashville. So I don't know why the fans are so dead for this show. Because it reminds me of watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. Right now they have a thing where the fans aren't allowed to cheer because of COVID and the spreading of the molecules and all that stuff. So they just have to be quiet during the matches. And that's what it felt like right here. There was no reaction one way or the other. JTG gets a back body suplex on Harry, and that finally gets the crowd to pop. But outside of that, almost nothing. But the match ends up going over when Harry catches JTG on the top rope, connects with that running power slam for the victory. And, that was it. 1, 2, 3. It really felt like the Commonwealth Connection were wrestling as heels with the DSBs working as faces. DK, what did you think about this one?
All right. So many ways to look at this. So many questions asked. So first question, why was this on the Empowered show? Exactly. So
I just don't know.
It's something totally out of place that doesn't make sense on the show.
Because women need men to draw a crowd. Apparently, that's the message that William Patrick Corrigan is trying to portray. That without the men wrestlers on there, the women won't draw anybody. So he's doing them a time-honored tradition.
I guess. I mean, this ranks up there with Pope mansplaining. It wasn't needed. It didn't make sense. You could have put the women's tag team champions in there if you're gonna do something. So that's the first thing. You know, this would have been a fine match if they had featured a tag team show.
Yep.
Okay. Except for who cared about this match?
Nobody.
I mean, as you said, we haven't seen Dango and JTG in a while. They certainly haven't won anything important that would make you think that here's a chance that they'll win tonight. I mean, if I'm in the crowd, why do I care? I mean, what have you given me to make this match in the least bit exciting? And then they work over Harry Smith. And honestly, got to say, in this set of tapings, Harry Smith has not looked well. I don't know if he's working with an injury or what the deal is, or maybe he's just getting too old or something. I do not think he's looked as well as he normally looks. And so, but they work him over. So probably the one guy in here who you would probably want to get over as a wrestler is the one that's taking all the abuse. And then the next thing is I didn't really care. I mean, I couldn't get into it. There was nothing exciting about the match. It wasn't a bad match. I mean, I didn't sit there and go, oh, this is horrible, and they're botching all these spots, and, it's boring. It was just like, they've given me nothing to want to watch this.
Yeah.
And, if I wasn't going to review it later in the week, I wouldn't have watched it. We know who's going to win. And so
it's funny how when we were talking about the tag team, the top 8 tag team, we didn't even count Dirty Dango.
No. Why would we? They've been a non-factor. They're 50-50 booking. They have as many losses as they have wins.
I thought Dango was retired.
Well, he said he was retiring forever for 2 months.
Is his last name Funk?
Yes. Hey, Jay, we got about 3 minutes till we're at 2:30. So,
all right. Well, let's try to wrap it up then. Next up, we have the women's match. And again, great matchup here. Camille versus Chelsea Green. These two have shared a ring now a few times under the NWA banner. This is their third go around, with the last one that came at the Crockett Cup, and of course the first one at the 73rd. Green received this opportunity because of the Corrigan Cardona clause, that conspiracy thing that gave every standing member of the family Cardona a future shot at the World Championship. VSK unsuccessfully challenged Homicide for the World Junior title, and Chelsea's got her shot at the Burke. No word yet on whether Myers or Knox have a shot down the road, or if their shot was included with the race for the chase. This match is very competitive. Maybe Camille seemed very not as strong as a champion as we've seen in the past. She's definitely looked a lot more winded than I'm used to seeing out of Camille, and it looked like she was struggling more in the ring than I'm used to seeing out of Camille. At one point, she even reaches out to the fans for encouragement, and I don't think I've ever seen Camille do that before. Again, I also dislike the fact that Matt Cardona's out there. Where is his manager's license? Again, continuity counts. They're just going to let anyone come out there now for any reason. It just doesn't make sense. Also, during this match, I don't remember seeing Camille look so vulnerable. At one point, it appeared that Miss Cardona had actually beat her. In fact, she had that pin, and Chelsea put her hand on the bottom rope for extra leverage. I think she'd have got away with it if Matt didn't put his hand on top for the extra leverage. The referee saw Matt put his hand on top, and that's what called for the the breakup of the pin. Otherwise, we might have a new world's women's champion if that didn't happen. That causes a distraction enough for Chelsea to not be paying attention to what Camille is doing, and Camille connects with the spear for the pin. Again, a lot more competitive than I thought it would be. I thought it was a good match, probably one of Chelsea's best matches since being a part of the NWA. But I didn't think she was going to win going into this, and I'm glad she didn't. DK, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't expecting her to win. The match was not the best one that they've had, but it was okay. There were a couple of big botches in it. The one leapfrog where the foot got caught sticks out in my mind.
That's true. That's fair.
In particular. And they broke my cardinal rule when it comes to a botch, which it's only a botch if you don't acknowledge it. And they kind of like looked like they didn't know what to do when it happened, and then acted like it didn't. And so, I don't know. I mean, was it a horrible show? No. Did it have horrible matches? No. Did it have great matches? Not really. Did the booking make sense? Of course not. This NWA TV, TV show booking. Was the World Women's match everything I hoped it would be? Not really, but was it bad? No. I mean, there were elements of it I certainly enjoyed. And I like Chelsea Green. She's always seemed to bring out the best in Camille as far as their in-ring stuff. Best angle in there. I want to see Valkyrie versus Camille. I thought they did a good job with that match. I didn't care about the tag team title match.
Speaking of angles, I really like the angle that they were shooting Paola Blaze from. That was a good angle.
That was a very nice angle. And, shouldn't they have featured the tag team titles? Yes. Maybe it was the day that LNV wasn't there. I don't know. I was in the three-way the week before. It just it's hard to enjoy the wrestling even when it's good when the booking's so bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's I can almost enjoy bad wrestling with good booking more than I can enjoy good wrestling with horrible booking. But I'd rather have, good booking and good wrestling.
I mean, is that too much to ask?
Apparently, since I don't know that there's a promotion out there currently doing that. But
I know one in New Jersey that's based out of Glassboro.
I know. Now, if only you could have 2 hours of time on TV for me to watch.
Well, you can check out their YouTube channel. They are putting up fresh content all the time. That's youtube.com. Just search for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators or DAWG, DAWG. A lot of great matches that you guys should go out there. Not only watch those matches, but click, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Our friends
share.
Share too. Our friends over at DAWG put out a lot of great content. Their events are some top tier events. Even Dave Scooby was at one of their events just a few months ago, and he said he had a great time. So I really hope that you guys would all take advantage of that free content, free entertainment. And I mean, these are the last two cards. They just put them up free of charge. You don't have to buy a DVD. You don't have to stream it. You just go to YouTube. Subscribe and check out the content that they put out there. I really think it's the best bargain in pro wrestling today because it's free.
Yeah, Dave Scooby, I think you should show up on Saturday night, August 27th at the Max Fit Sports Center located 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown rustic Glassboro, New Jersey, and see the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship match as the current new champion, Busky Eric Martin, takes on the Alpha Dog Adam Chandler. You also see an I Quit match with Ty Thomas taking on Nico's Rico, so it'll be an I Quit match. And just announced now, the World Wrestling Grand Prix Championship will be on the line as Chris Steeler defends against Bill Bain. Bill Bain, a very respected veteran in this business. It's going to be a different kind of challenge for Chris Steeler, and I'm looking forward to that. There'll be a lot of really, really talented professional wrestlers. And, wait for it, Dave Dahl.
Yeah.
So make sure you come check it out, Dave Scooby, and all of you fans at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and fans of the Alliance Guys, and fans of the NWA, and fans of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And you might even see this guy that looks a lot like Ray Jazz, former dog champion. I think his name is Ray Jazzikoff. I think he wants to be like Ray Jazz. He's been showing up on the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood recently.
Real quick before we end the show, I got a chance to actually meet Ray Jazz face to face, and it's weird because everyone backstage calls him Ray Jazz, except for one guy who calls him Ray Jazzikoff, and it just every time I'm like, what the hell, man? It just throws me. But it was cool seeing him in person. Got to get a photo with that guy. I was very happy to do that. Maybe one of these days I'll get to see him in New Jersey. Hopefully in the next year, hopefully. But that's gonna do it for us, guys. Jaden, I know you're not on the socials, but do you want to plug the dog socials?
Oh yeah, go to www.dogprowrestling.com, and the links are all there, because that's the only way I know what they are, because I have to go click on them myself, because I don't have a U Twitter or a face talk or anything like that.
Face place.
So make sure you go and check them out. But I do watch the YouTube because it's really, really good, and you should too.
And then DK, how can they follow you?
Yeah, well, when I leave the house for the day, just get in your car and follow my car.
All right.
Or go to @DKMFWTX. Probably anywhere and everywhere, but Twitter's about the only place where I do anything related to wrestling. Oh, by the way, if you want to see actual good wrestling instead of like crap we watch on most of the TV things, it should be pointed out that the U17 under 17 World Amateur Championships are currently going on in Rome. So
all right,
you can follow some of that stuff.
If you're into combat sports, that's the way to go. Of course, we'll be back on Tuesday, and then the whole week starts again. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We are here to talk NWA with you. We are the Alliance, and until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.